In this thing we call reality or existence, there is a cosmic joke, and the punchline is usually revealed when you die, but sometimes it is revealed when you experience enlightenment. And I say experience enlightenment because that's the most accurate way to describe what happens. You don't attain, reach, or gain enlightenment. You simply experience it. You don't attain anything tangible. You don't transcend the reality physically, nor hold on to enlightenment once you've experienced it. You experience enlightenment, the experience ends, and you are right back where you were before the experience. And before the experience of enlightenment, there is no seeking, searching, or studying for enlightenment. These things imply that there are certain prerequisites that need to be added in order to be ready for enlightenment. There may be prerequisites, but they have nothing to do with adding anything. Enlightenment can be said to be the culmination of what I like to refer to as the art of reductionism. There's no particular knowledge to learn, karma to refine, pilgrimages to make, or any type of person you must strive to be in order to experience enlightenment. The only thing required of you is to begin to drop all things. Essentially, you reduce and reduce and reduce until finally there is nothing left except enlightenment. It's about recognizing and detaching from everything you're not until the only thing that remains is what you are. Pure awareness, aware of itself, completely free of all illusions and delusions. The reduction process itself has nothing to do with thinking or any kind of intellectual process. No faith, belief, hope, or worship are required. The only thing required is the disconnection from all these things. Upon experiencing enlightenment, it is seen that all is one. The experience and realization are ineffable, but this is the best way to describe it. Wholeness with no separation. If one has not experienced enlightenment, this can be misunderstood. Dogmatists and religion heads, many of whom are of Eastern religions, scoff at enlightenment and say that it's arrogant. The idea that a person is everything, that he is God, that all things and all people are just reflections of him. But that's not it at all. There is no person. There are no others. Then there is no you. All is one, period. There is no you or person for everything to be a reflection of in the first place. This may be the case in illusion, but not in enlightenment. There are no more walls, divisions, separations, or distinctions. No more here or there, inside or outside. No more others, no more you. No more evil or good, right or wrong, pleasure or suffering, or even illusion or enlightenment. All is one, is all there is. This is often referred to as the only true absolute, but I wouldn't be so bold as to say that. It's as far outside as awareness can go, but who's to say that this absolute all is not just one bubble of allness and oneness in a vast sea of bubbles? Who's to say that the experience of oneness and wholeness is not just but a program in a cosmic computer? Who's to say that there may not be aspects and elements existing beyond oneness and wholeness that are completely outside of the reach of awareness? Aspects so completely strange and foreign that we cannot even imagine them, or even be aware of them, even in enlightenment. No one can say that. So the best we can say is that enlightenment is as absolute can get within the contextualization of this thing we experience as one and whole. Since this is the only spectrum we have access to, this is all we will be concerned with for now. But we should resist the bold assumption that this is completely absolute. Even infinity may be just a finite cell existing in some kind of larger body. And even if the oneness extends into the areas we don't have access to, the point is that enlightenment may be only reaching so far, beyond which we cannot even begin to know, speak of, or experience. But this is all really besides the point. I'm just making the point that we really can't hang labels on enlightenment, and this would include the label of absolute, something strictly relegated to the concepts of human beings. Concepts and words can't describe it. Even everything I've said so far in this video is completely inadequate. Which brings us to the cosmic joke. What is the meaning of life? There is no meaning. Life is meaningless other than the meaning it's assigned. The essence of life is beyond all meaning and non-meaning. Who is God? God is your dog. God is macaroni salad. God is a rock. God is you. It's been you all along. But since there is no dog, macaroni salad, rock, or you, there is no God. Oneness is all there is, and oneness hangs no label on itself. How did it all begin? It began in an ending. How does it all end? It ends in a beginning. The beginning ending of the ending beginning. The beginning ending of the ending beginning. The ending beginning of the beginning ending. At least that's how it's imagined. We can dance around the issue and say we have to drop arrogance or undergo the death of the ego or realize the equality of all sentient life. But all of these things still leave a lot of wiggle room for a false sense of self to be nurtured. So many of the issues man struggles with and seeks to resolve, the greed, the anger, the deceit, the selfishness, can be nipped in the bud by dissolving the false sense of self. This means that you are the awareness and nothing else. Beyond awareness, anything identified as self by the associations of awareness are the false sense of self. These are the things that are not self. All the aspects of biological physicality, gender, sexuality, race. All the aspects of ideological concepts, beliefs, religion, politics. All the aspects of occupational inventory, career, money, property, and all the aspects of external environment, country, planet, universe. Identification with all these things is what nourishes the false sense of self and subsequently gives rise to all the complications that hassle mankind with every step and breath taken. Things to defend, causes to fight for, beliefs to push, values to place, opinions to argue, judgments to render, separations to define, narratives to spin, and truths to chase. Mankind thinks that by sifting through all these details and inventory items that he will somehow sort it all out, rectify what's wrong, and arrive at clarity and understanding. But all mankind is succeeding in accomplishing is becoming more and more entangled in a sticky web of delusion that further and further restricts until finally it completely immobilizes man, and death quickly follows. All of this is quite unnecessary, for the simplicity of now is always present in the awareness of this eternal moment. There is nothing to seek, correct, identify, associate, believe, or explain. There's no meaning to discover or anything to learn or understand. All these attachments only serve to distract awareness from its basic nature. Enlightenment is always available to experience right now. If only we would strip away all the delusion and see it. It's always right in front of us, right at our fingertips, at all times. But we are far too busy to realize it. It's hiding right in plain sight, but we overlook it, look through it, or bury it underneath so much convoluted overcomplication that it is indistinguishable. But it's incredibly easy to realize. Just stop and drop. Don't overthink it. Just stop and drop. It's effortless effort. Stop thinking, stop seeking, stop learning, stop attaching. Stop everything, drop everything, and there it is, where it's always been. Once enlightened, you cannot hold on to it, so don't even try. You don't attain enlightenment, you experience it. Experiences can only be experienced. They cannot be attained, grasped at, held, or preserved as a feature of the self, especially when there is no self with features. But we can hold the wisdom of enlightenment, at least temporarily, and use it to navigate life. We can take a step back from the whole process and simply witness it unfold. We can let intuition take the helm, and it will be smooth sailing. This is what is meant by effortless effort, actionless action, and not doing. Doings, actions, and effort are only required when the thinking mind is manning the controls. But when we let intuition take over, there are never any choices, decisions, or actions to wrestle with. These things unfold fluidly, all by themselves, and always flow naturally and appropriately. Don't interfere with the flow. Witness the flow. Become one with it. Remain impartial and impersonal, which emulates the pure essence. Anything more will be disruptive and meddlesome. Allow the fluid to remain fluid. Keep the mirror clean of dust and debris. Free-flowing, clear-seeing is the foundation of a spiritual awakening. Discriminating distinctions are what impedes the awakening. Pinning things down with labels of good and bad or right and wrong is going against the flow and makes the mirror dirty and fogged over. If the mirror is clean, then there is no need to make judgments, discriminations, or distinctions. The mirror reflects things exactly as they are. If you are seeing things exactly as they are and understand the underlying essence behind these appearances, what need is there to import a distinction? This is an unnecessary middleman that doesn't even relay clarity or accuracy. It's the little voice inside our head, sometimes referred to as the conscious. But all it is the thinking mind, which for the average man runs non-stop in every waking moment. It sometimes even runs when we are sleeping and dreaming. We should do everything we can to shut down this inner voice, for it distorts, embellishes, and misconstrues everything. If you see clearly, then you don't need anything additional to explain what you see. If you hear clearly, then you don't need any kind of interpreter to explain what you hear. But people are afraid to let go of it, having become very dependent and needy on it. But all it is a crutch. Without interference from the thinking mind, all is self-evident and transparent. So don't be afraid to let it go, for there is no way to be fooled or deceived without it. In fact, we are deceived and fooled only when we are navigating through the thinking mind, which is fickle, scattered, and convoluted. As it is, sense perception is already converting, filtering, and translating energetic vibrations into false labels. That's enough to deal with. So we don't need, on top of that, a narrator in our head, or a little angel and devil on each shoulder haggling over our brain. However, we don't ever get rid of the thinking mind, but only detach from it, which puts it in its proper place as a limited tool with limited functionality. It can be a useful tool when employed accordingly, but has absolutely no business running the show. And just for a little clarification, when we speak about detachment, this doesn't mean avoidance, repression, or pushing things away, but simply to be completely naturally beyond it. If a desire is burning within us, it doesn't make a difference if we avoid or suppress the object of desire. This isn't detachment. Detachment is when we have extinguished and purged the burning desire that compels the attachment. If we can root out the attachments of desires, then all other fringe attachments, the default identifiers and associations of the overall conditioning to inventory, can more easily be released. So when it comes to detaching from the thinking mind, it's not about getting rid of it, avoiding it, or burying it, but about simply stepping outside of it. Let the thinking mind do its thing. It's okay to be aware of it as long as it's not governing us. It's just another aspect of the physiological biology. The heart beats, the lungs breathe, the eyes blink, and the mind thinks. If we let it be and don't let it govern us, eventually we don't even need to be aware of it. It will quiet down and take its proper place as a tool at our disposal. With this, a great clarity will open, and then we can begin to become aware of that which is beyond the sense perceptions without any interference. It's been called the third eye, the sixth sense, the opening of the pineal gland, but no matter what you call it, it's about awareness beyond the sense perceptions. Some people reject this, but this rejection doesn't invalidate the awareness of direct aspects that fall outside of sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch. The rejection only validates that some people have not yet tapped it. And this is an important note to recognize for all those making scientific arguments. Anything and everything that science supports is only applicable to the configuration of the five senses. And this is but a tiny, tiny portion of the full picture. It's like a blind man on a small island in a vast ocean. This is not to say that science is invalid or wrong, but just that it is relegated to a limited contextualization that's even further filtered down through the limited configuration that is perceiving it. So basically, despite all we know, we really don't know anything concerning the details of phenomena. And when you take into account all of the unknown universe, multiverses, different dimensions, inner space, aspects outside of perception, and the limits of the creature that perceives all this, we know even less than nothing. So let's keep things in perspective. Science deals with a minuscule speck of dust in infinity. And even the minuscule speck of dust that science deals with is not as it appears, nor is a complete representation of the bigger picture, or even unto itself. What we know, scientific or otherwise, is an improvisational bridge in a vast unknown that we build one step at a time, and which burns forever behind us. And when you further take into account that science dismisses awareness, at least in any way not connected to material phenomena, you can clearly see that science is a limited archaic tool that at best might only end up serving as a stepping stone to something more useful. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics may indeed be the next step, but will only bear fruit to the proper practitioners. Anything less would be like asking a caveman to do rocket science or to perform heart surgery. Mankind is already on the brink of a brand new context. Man has reached his maximum velocity, so to speak, and has gone as far as he's going to go with his current form, tools, and methods. We can already see that with man's current foundation, deep exploration of space is simply not feasible. Never mind the universe. Even explorations within our own solar system would take far too much time and resources to be realistic. Not to mention that we don't have anything even close to the right technology. And when you take into consideration that man is wasteful, inefficient, and self-destructive, we simply don't have the kind of time required to realize it. Mankind, at his current rate, will be extinct before he can even put bases on the moon, never mind Mars. Now, I bring this all up because if we really want to make this dream world a game worth continuing playing and to be a sustainable game, then we really need to start imagining greater things. Mankind needs to detach from his attachment to being mankind. Spiritual warriors tend to be, by default, very creative, imaginative people. And for such a person, if they have practiced the art of detachment and reductionism and experienced spiritual enlightenment, things are not going to be quite the same afterwards. This is not to say that you will undergo a metamorphosis. You will find yourself right back in your physical form in the physical world. And while the experience of enlightenment will bring about a kind of return to innocence, the game of illusion, however, will lose most of its innocence. It's like rewatching a movie you've already seen, or replaying a video game you've already completed, or witnessing a magic trick that you already know the secret of. It's simply not the same anymore. So I would definitely say that if one doesn't want to lose the real primal fun and excitement of the physical illusory reality, then abandon spirituality. Because there are two things that you won't be able to achieve after enlightenment. One, you won't be able to maintain being a detached, passive, outside observer of reality. And two, you won't be able to return to being a fully engrossed, impassioned, inside observer of reality. Sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? So where does that leave us? Well, first off, as was alluded to earlier, detachment is not about avoiding life, but more about not becoming wrapped up in it to such an extent to become deluded. We don't want to take detachment to the extreme. If we take detachment to the extreme, then we only wind up being deluded in detachment. This is when detachment becomes just another attachment. If so, then we won't be able to be a warm, compassionate spiritual being, but only a cold, uncompassionate sociopath. This is not the aim of detachment. This is a key point to clarify because sociopath or not, supremely detached and enlightened or not, you will never truly reach a place where you will be completely once removed and totally passive. Even the worst sociopath still cares about his immediate family and will certainly react if inflicted with massive pain. Even a master guru is prone to moods, hunger, sleepiness, and occasional desires. So becoming so detached that you are completely disconnected from everything is next to impossible, or so incredibly rare that it's almost a non-issue. But if you find yourself in this position, you've gone too far. After enlightenment, resume your life. If you are hungry, eat. If you are tired, sleep. If you have money, spend it. If you are hot or cold, adjust your clothing accordingly. If moods or desires arise, watch them come and go. Do what comes naturally, but without grasping, attaching, or indulging. That's it in a nutshell. It's as easy and effortless as breathing. And if we have experienced and know intimately the oneness of everything, then what comes naturally will always be centered around compassion and unconditional love. With that said, after a spiritual awakening, it will be equally as difficult to ever be able to return to your previous MO of delusional reality. How could you? Enlightenment acts as a spoiler to the fun and games of illusion. So unless you are a real proficient, dedicated masturbator, after enlightenment, things won't be the same. And if you know empirically that all is one and all phenomenal aspects are passing impermanent imaginary constructs of a self-produced illusory dream, then what are you really doing? Who are you really interacting with? What does anything amount to? How does anything really matter? To put it in perspective, it's the same as if you are sleeping and are really wrapped up in a compelling, dramatic dream, replete with excitement, danger, protagonists, and antagonists, and then you go lucid. How could you maintain the same level of drama and intrigue with the dream details? You can't, because you are now aware of their nature and source. The only way to return to the delusion of the dream is to lose lucidity, something that is generally unpreferable compared to the clarity of lucid awareness, but eventually will inevitably happen, if not in this specific dream, then in another. In the mundane waking reality we call real life, this is harder to accomplish. An enlightenment experience has a profound impact, and the wisdom that comes with it is palpable, hitting deep in the cores of our being. So once we've received the wisdom of this experience, there really is no way to remove it. At best, we might try to bury it or pervert it, but deep down it will always remain with us. A lot of people say that the detached outside perspective of awareness, aware of itself, is boring, lonely, and unfulfilling. But after a spiritual awakening, the inside-out perspective of awareness engaged in an illusion can be just as lonely, boring, and unfulfilling. What fulfillment is possible when you realize you are but a phantom in a phantom world, interacting with no one but yourself, and wherein nothing matters? To offset this paradoxical dissonance, we can employ a post-enlightenment spiritual practice instead of trying to bury or pervert the wisdom. And this would be the spiritual practice of disciplined foolishness. This is when you recognize the futility, realize that nothing matters, but go on with life as if it did matter and as if it wasn't futile. The only thing required for this is a great sense of humor, for it is the ultimate cosmic joke. Our whole lives we have been on a mission to uncover reality, when all along we've always been the reality. There's nothing to seek, find, add, or remove to discover reality. We are the reality. The joke is on us.